Let me give you guys some context. I'm 34, female, and a couple of months ago, my divorce was finalized. My ex-husband, let's call him Jack, was not very happy about it. But that doesn't make any sense to me because he's the one who actually was at fault, because he's the one who cheated. So he really should have seen it coming because cheating is obviously non-negotiable in any relationship. But what I found most surprising was that not only did he think I was going to forgive him, his family and my own family also seemed to believe that I should have given him another chance. We had been together for 8 years, married for 5, and so because we had been together for so long, everybody seemed to believe that I should have forgiven him, because at the end of the day, he was the one who came to me and confessed everything last year, saying that he wanted to be honest with me and give this relationship another chance. He told me that he had been having an affair with his secretary for the past couple of months, but he had ended it because he had been feeling way too guilty, especially because he knew that I would never do this to him. And that's why he wanted to have a fresh start. He wanted to try marriage counseling, but for me, the second he told me the truth, it was over. Like any other couple, we have also had our ups and downs in the past, and lately he had been acting very strange and weird and distant, and deep down, I had a clue that maybe there was something going very wrong in our marriage. And I had thought that maybe he was cheating, but I had pushed that thought out of my head because I did not want to believe it. But then he confessed to it himself. So I had to confront the reality, and within a week I had left home, and soon after I filed for a divorce. It was difficult, but anyway, we were able to get a divorce, and a few months back it was all finalized, and since then I have had nothing to do with him. I've also been very distant from my own family because they had not been very supportive during the divorce, and they kept telling me that the end of the day, these things happen in marriages and they can always be worked out. So I don't need to pack up and leave so quickly. And I should at least think about counseling or something. The fact that they were trying to convince me to stay with the guy who had cheated on me, it just didn't make any sense. So that's why I had been putting some distance between me and them, and now I think I'm going to have to cut them off altogether because of what happened a few days back. And I'm still having a difficult time wrapping my head around it because it's just so weird and insane, quite frankly. But before I say what happened, let me tell you guys that the reason that I have not cut off my parents so far, and I have actually still been in touch with them and been trying to be there for them, is because my dad's been suffering from leukemia for the past couple of years. And obviously, in a state like that, I don't want to cut my parents off because of that. I've held back, but now I just don't know anymore. So the incident that took place a couple of days ago was that I got a phone call from my ex-mother-in-law, and it was from our phone number that I did not recognize, so I picked up. And as soon as I answered, she started crying, begging me not to hang up, telling me that she really needed me to listen to her. And because she was being so hysterical, I decided to hear her out. And then she told me that apparently my ex-husband Jack had been in a nasty and terrible car accident and had slipped into a coma just about an hour or so before she called me. She also told me that while he had been a little coherent, he had been asking for me, and so she was begging me to come down to see him in the hospital so that she could help make sense of things because I was the last person that he had been talking about. Obviously, I felt terrible because even though I don't want anything to do with him romantically anymore, we had been together for such a long time and this was a huge thing. So I immediately decided to note down the name of the hospital and I headed there, leaving all my work and taking a day off because this was crazy. I was worried sick for him, and the whole way that I was driving to the hospital, I was just praying that nothing bad would happen to him. But in the end, I discovered that this was just some sick joke. When I reached the hospital and asked for him at the reception, they said that there was nobody there, and the reception staff were very confused as to what I was talking about, even though I thought that I was providing them with all the correct details that my ex-mother-in-law had given me. Anyway, after a few minutes, I decided to come out and I called my ex-mother-in-law because I thought that maybe there had been some sort of confusion. Maybe I was at the wrong place or something. And so I called her and she picked up and she sounded a lot more subdued on that second phone call. And in a much more calm way, she told me to come to the restaurant right behind the hospital so she could explain everything. Obviously, that was very fishy. So I told her to explain everything to me on the phone, but she told me that she couldn't. And this was important. So she wanted me to come and see her in person, and by then I had figured out there was something weird going on. But I still headed to the restaurant because I wanted to get to the bottom of what was happening. So I walked to the restaurant, and as soon as I was inside, I saw a bunch of people standing there. My parents, my older sister and her husband, Jack's parents, and of course, the man of the moment, Jack himself. Everybody was standing round the table with a huge cake on it, and the whole place was decorated as if there was a party going on. I was obviously shocked because this was not what I had been expecting in the slightest. And then I read the words on the cake and on the banner that had been strung up, which said, "Welcome back." And obviously that was ridiculous because I was not going back to anybody, but I wanted to hear what they had to say about all of this, so I let them talk while I said nothing and just stood quietly. Everybody was talking a lot. And I let them go on because I wanted to know everything. And in the end, I was able to conclude that this was a plan that had originally occurred to Jack's mother because she wanted to gauge whether I still cared for him or not. And then she got in touch with my mom, and both my parents and my in-laws seemed to think that this was a brilliant idea. So then they spoke to himself, and he also agreed that this would be the best way to check if I still cared or not. And now, since I was here, it was confirmed that I still had feelings for him simply because I had been manipulated into showing up for a man that I thought was not going to survive after an accident. I mean, they had literally lied to me, telling me that my ex-husband had slipped into a coma after asking for me, after having been in a near-fatal car crash, and they had manipulated me in this way, only to try and convince me that I still had feelings for him, and that it would be the right thing to do for me to get back with my cheating ex. Even as I'm typing it out, I know how insane it sounds, but honestly, at this point in time, when I was in that situation, I couldn't even fathom how they could think that this was going to work. I could have screamed at them. I could have shouted myself hoarse. But there was no point in doing that. They were so sure of themselves. They really thought that this was going to work, which is why they had made the effort of booking the restaurant and making so many arrangements so they could take advantage of my niceness. Well, I knew that there was no point in wasting my words on them. So I simply turned around after they had finished explaining the whole situation, and I made a run for it to my car, which was in the hospital parking lot, and thankfully nobody was able to catch up with me. Once I was in the parking lot, I started my car as quickly as possible, drove back home so I could get away from all these psychos as soon as possible. So that was a couple of days ago, and since then I've literally blocked everybody who was there. I don't want anything to do with these people because honestly, I feel like they violated all my boundaries. They have no sense of what is acceptable in a relationship, and I think that this was just disgusting. The way they tried to manipulate me by trying to take advantage of basic human kindness is just weird. I blocked my sister and her husband too because even though they had nothing to say about the situation earlier, this just makes their stance very clear, I think. The only thing I'm feeling a bit off about is the fact that I'm not speaking to my parents, and like I said, my dad has leukemia, so I don't know how long he has. Obviously, for the past couple of years, it's been on and off, and he has been going through treatment and he's been responding and everything, but even then, it's not like he's in the clear. And with these things, you never know what's going to happen. So that's the only thing I'm feeling a bit iffy about. And maybe I'm the bad person for not wanting to talk to him. But I don't know. I feel like what my parents did was just not acceptable. And they should have known that. They should have known better. Already, the fact that they had been nagging me about giving him a second chance was not okay with me, especially after Jack himself had told me that he had been cheating on me, and I think as good parents, they should have supported my decision to leave him instead of trying to convince me otherwise. But whatever, even then, I was ready to forgive them and let it go and be there for them as emotional support, even though I was being a bit distant. But now I just don't know anymore. Do you guys think that I would be the bad guy if I cut them off? AITA for wanting to cut off my dad, who has leukemia, and my mother also for trying to cross my boundaries and manipulate me into getting back with my cheating ex-husband? Update 1. Hey, so first of all, I would like to thank everybody who commented on my post and told me that I was not in the wrong for not wanting to have any contact with my husband after what they did. That really validated what I was feeling, and yeah, I have decided I'm not going to talk to them because honestly, past couple of months have been very difficult for me already, and the least that they could have done was support me emotionally. But they haven't even done that, and on top of that, they have decided to make things even worse and more difficult for me by engaging with this stupid idea that my ex-mother-in-law, for whatever reason, seems to think it was going to work. So yeah, anyway, it's been hard, and I don't need to make my life even harder, and I don't need to feel guilty about not wanting to speak to my parents when they have made it so clear that they don't respect what I want from my life. And I don't even think that I'm being unreasonable here or anything. I mean, I was with this guy for 8 years and he ended up cheating on me. And also, if I'm being honest, this was the one incident that he told me about. Who is to say that he has not cheated on me before? Maybe he has, and maybe he's never told me about it. So what am I supposed to do? Just forget about it and move on and pretend nothing has happened? I'm not going to do that. I'm not that kind of person. Maybe it works for other people, but I cannot ever see it working for me. Once my trust has been broken, it's been broken forever. And I cannot ever pretend that the situation is going to improve. And if that applies to Jack, it applies to my parents as well. Yeah, I'm not saying that if they apologize, I'm never going to accept it and I'm never going to see them again. Maybe I will. But the one thing that I know for sure is that it will never be the same again, and that's awful. But it is what it is, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who ruin things by doing whatever they did. And it's really sad because, like I said, my dad's been suffering and my mother's been taking care of him on her own because my sister has their own family, so naturally she doesn't have that much time. She has her work and her 2 kids to handle. So she drops by every other weekend, but she doesn't have time to do more. I was the one who was visiting frequently, making sure that my parents knew that I was there for them. And this is what I got? It's just unfair. That's it. There is no other way to put it. I'm not saying that they have treated my sister better than me or anything. This is not about that. This is not about me and her, but this is about me and my parents. I don't understand why they couldn't just have stayed out of it, even if not supported me. I'll just never understand it because growing up, I've always had a good relationship with them. I've always done everything they asked of me. I've always tried to be a good daughter, but now I just don't know anymore, very honestly. Personally, I think that this is definitely a bit of a control issue because, like I said, I've always been a good daughter, and that means I've always obeyed my parents. Whatever they have expected of me, I've always done my best to live up to it. Whether it was in my academic life or in my career or even in my personal life, I've always tried to do right by them because I felt like I owe them this, since they have always done their best to give me and my sister everything that we needed and wanted. So the least that we could do was not let them down in our lives. But when I told my parents I was getting a divorce because Jack had cheated on me, I could see it on their faces that they were extremely disappointed and let down. For a couple of days they did not say anything to me, but then later on they tried to tell me that they had spoken to Jack and his family, and they knew he wanted to give our relationship a chance. He wanted to revive it by going to a relationship therapist or something. And they told me that they would really like it if I gave it a chance because at the end of the day, stuff like this happens in a lot of marriages and people are able to move on if they want to. People are able to make it work if they really want it to. And being a divorcee is not for the weak. And they know I'm not weak, but they would still not wish for me to get divorced because they know that deep down I do love him and he definitely loves me. They told me I had already been with him for a very long time, so it didn't make sense for me to give up on the relationship over one little blip. So the least I could do was agree to go to counseling with him. They also brought up the fact that he was from a good family, he was compatible with me, and then they dropped a bomb on me and started hinting that maybe if we started trying for a baby, we would be able to put all of this in the past because we would be spending our energy elsewhere. That was something I couldn't believe was happening because I had just found out my husband of 5 years had been cheating on me, and their response to that was trying to convince me to have a baby with this guy instead of leaving him so I could use the baby as some sort of sick band-aid or whatever to fix our broken marriage. Obviously, I lashed out at them. I was very upset, and we had a lot of fights, and after that, I distanced myself from them. I think they just never got over that. I think they took it as my attempt to humiliate them or something, and maybe that's why they're acting out like this. I don't know. All I know is that it's not acceptable, and I know I'm doing the right thing by cutting them out of my life. I don't know for how long, but whatever. Update 2. So it's been 2 weeks since my original post here, and I had managed to get the whole thing out of my head and get my life back to normal. In the sense that I had stopped thinking about the whole situation so frequently. But then today, my parents turned up at my house. Full disclosure, it did not go well, and they were not here to apologize. So if anybody was expecting that to happen, I'm sorry to let you down. Anyway, it was the weekend, so planning on unwinding and relaxing, but around lunchtime, my parents showed up, and even though I planned on not letting them in, they kept ringing the doorbell, and my mom started telling me that if I did not open the door, she would be very upset, and she and my dad were prepared to spend the entire afternoon sitting outside. And it was pretty cold out, so I did not want that to happen. With no other option, I decided to open the door and told them that I did not want to talk to them and that whenever I was ready, I would let them know. But as of now, I was not ready to hear anything out of them. My dad was not having it though. He made his way inside, and obviously I was not going to stop him or anything. So he took his seat on the couch, and instead of apologizing or something, he started telling me that he was very disappointed in the way that I had behaved. He told me that it was fine for me not to be happy about what had happened that day, and maybe they had crossed a line, but in the end, the way I had reacted was a little too much. He started telling me that it was definitely an overreaction for me to block everybody, including my own parents and my sister, who hadn't even said anything much, and even her husband. He told me that he was here to sort everything out with me because we need to remain as a family, whether or not I want to get back with my ex-husband or not. And the fact that he was not even apologizing or pretending to be sorry for anything, he was just being so pushy and bossy, it just really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm a grown woman. I don't need to deal with this kind of thing, and I definitely don't need to put up with it silently. So I told my parents as such, and I was really furious and told them to leave. But they did not take that kindly, and because of the tone I had taken, my mom started berating me, scolding me, telling me that this was the proper way to be speaking to my, telling me that this was not the proper way to be speaking to my parents. And that infuriated me even more because, like I said, I couldn't believe that they were trying to treat me like I was a 5-year-old, even when I was at this grown age. In my previous update, I had spoken about how this all felt like a control issue for them, and I was just proven right today. They just wanted control over my life. They did not care about my boundaries. They did not respect me or my boundaries, and my patience was being tested. So I started yelling at them because I had just lost my cool, and even though I don't really like yelling at people, I couldn't help it today. And my parents had never seen me do all this. I'm usually quite reserved and shy, so for me to start screaming at their face, asking them to get the heck out of my house, that was definitely not expected. I told them that the next time they show up, it better be to apologize to me because otherwise I'm just not interested. My parents tried to diffuse the situation by trying to get me to calm down, but I was way beyond that because they had really ticked me off today. So there was no salvaging the visit, and in the end, they were forced to leave. When I started telling them that if they did not get out, I would definitely call the cops on them, and after this, if they wanted to talk to me, then they would have to apologize to me because otherwise I wasn't interested, and also if they ever tried to push me around again, they would really regret it. After they had stepped out of the house, I slammed the door as hard as I could, and since then, I've just been trying to calm myself down. I have to say, typing it all out made me feel slightly better, and now I just hope that they leave me alone for a while because honestly, in the past couple of weeks, or actually the past couple of months, things have been extremely dramatic and difficult for me. And I don't need this kind of thing anymore. I just need some peace and quiet, and I hope that they respect that after today. Update 3. Hey, so it's been a week since my previous update, and since then, since the last interaction I had with my parents that did not really go that well, they have decided not to bother me, and I'm really grateful for it. I've been pretty busy with work and everything, so it would have been very inconvenient for me to deal with all that drama anyway. However, 2 days ago, Jack decided to reach out to me. He sent me an email, and at first I decided not to read it because I didn't want to be part of whatever drama he was trying to create now. I was just sick of all that. So I thought that I simply wouldn't read it, but then my curiosity got the better of me. I opened it and started reading anyway, and thankfully it was nothing bad. It was just him trying to apologize for everything that has happened so far. He told me he was really sorry for ruining everything and that he was going to try and be better for me so that eventually we would be able to get back together because he's not sure if he's ever going to be able to forget me. He told me I was the most perfect woman for him, and he screwed it all up and he's really sorry about it. On top of that, the fact that he kept pushing for me not to leave him and the fact that he even tried to manipulate me with the rest of his family, that's unacceptable, and he knows that now. He said he wanted to apologize to me earlier, but he couldn't find the words to do it, and neither did he have the courage to reach out to me, but now it feels like it's overdue. And so he wanted to let me know that he was very sorry. And I didn't have to reply to any of it, but he just wanted me to know that he truly was apologetic for everything he's put me through. Well, I guess it's a good thing that he came to his senses and realized that whatever he was doing, it was not okay. It's a good thing he apologized, and obviously I'm not going to reach out to him and tell him it's okay and that I forgive him wholeheartedly. But I feel like this is some sort of closure that both of us needed. For me, obviously, the divorce itself was closure enough, but this works too. Honestly, now I just want to move on with my life. And I hope that he does the same because I deserve better. And as for him, well, I just don't want him to stay hung up on me because I'm never really going back. Update 4. So, hi everyone. It's been a year since my last update, and a couple of weeks ago, my parents reached out to me, and this time I decided to talk to them. In the past year, they have reached out to me several times, but I've always pushed them away because I wasn't ready to talk. However, I feel like now it's been a long time and I feel like I'm ready to give them a chance. So we're having dinner this weekend, and for the first time in a long time, I had a proper conversation with both my parents on the phone. It was a short phone call, and it was mostly just my parents talking to me about how my life is going and everything. But it was a pleasant conversation and it felt very normal. So I'm hoping that that sets the tone for the dinner, and I'm hoping that we're able to sort everything out. Obviously, I don't think that we'll be able to sort out everything that's happened in the course of one dinner together, but it's a good start. My sister's also going to be there along with her husband, but with her, I had already sorted everything out a long time ago. She had told me that it had been a mistake for her to play along with the whole thing, because actually she had no idea how I was going to react since our parents had led her to believe that this is secretly what I wanted, and she had fallen for it. So she had apologized beforehand, and I forgave her. So that was that. And now I think I'm ready to be a part of the family again. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.